You already know that we always estimate a regression model based on some set of data. And in this context, it's very helpful to know the difference between population and sample. So population is defined as the entire group you want to investigate, and sample is the group you use in your research. I will provide an example. For instance, consider a situation. You'd like to investigate the links between number of children and success in career for women. Of course, in this case, the entire population of working women with children will constitute the population. However, it's probably too hard to analyze, too much data to collect. In general, it's very costly. So that's why you concentrate on sample. You select some number of working women with children, and you concentrate your research on this sample. In line with this, we also distinguish between population regression line and sample regression line. So population regression line is here. This is something you design for the entire population. This is the ideal, hypothetical, yet unknown relationship between those variables, depending on all the hypothetically available data. And sample regression line is the regression line you obtain using your sample. It represents the best fit for data in the research sample. So it's important to know the notion of representative sample. So representative sample is assumed to provide true information about population. If we want to stick to the previous example I provided, imagine that there are two researchers. So one collects surveys for females working in different areas, in different countries, of different age, of different level of income. And the second researcher is much lazier, so he or she just decides to survey several, employees of several corporations with offices in Warsaw. Of course, this approach is much easier, but it's also more biased. It will just provide some information about those females working in those corporations in Warsaw. It's not general enough. So, depending on your aims, you always have to try at least to design a representative sample to be unbiased. We will get back to this topic a bit later. Again, at this point, it's just to introduce a general idea. But you can also consider the following examples. Imagine that you're interested in investigating the links between capital per capita and income per capita. Then you want to investigate the links between those variables in developing countries. And finally, you want to do the same but for developed countries. It's easy to see that in each case, you should design a different sample. So in the first case, you want to include as many countries as possible. Countries in different geographical regions, of different level of income, and so on. In the second case, you would include only developing countries, and finally, you would include only developed countries. So you will do a lot with econometric research, and you will probably have to design an econometric model for your thesis. So my friendly advice is don't try to make it too general. So if you want to investigate the links between those variables in general, then you have to ensure that your sample is representative. But however, if you concentrate only on developed or developing or emerging countries, or maybe countries located in Europe, or maybe Eastern European countries, or let's say post-communist countries, it will make your life much easier and it will make your research much more precise. So this is just some example. So I designed this regression line for 206 economists which were observed for 11 years. Those economists have different level of income, level of development, and so on. So still it's not a population regression line, because for that I would have to include all the countries, which is not true, but this is something very close. So this is the shape. In this case, I included only developing countries, and you can already notice that the value of intercept and beta 1 coefficient are actually different, and here for developed countries. So the idea is like this. The functional links between the variables of your interest actually depend on sample. Capital might have different effect on income depending on the level of economic development. Number of children might have different effect on their mother's professional success depending on, let's say, how open is society to the idea that fathers should take care of children as well. So you see, there are a lot of factors. And in general, like just to summarize the point, when you design the research, make sure that research topic, research objective, research question, and research hypothesis fit your sample. Do not make any general conclusions about the links between those variables if your sample is not representative. It's better to narrow the area of your research than to make too generous conclusions about something you're not able to conclude on. So, yeah, that was it, and thank you for your attention.